Marathon is struggling to find a major audience. While in a prior video on PlayStation's failed live service strategy, I said that Bungie's first-person extraction shooter was performing solidly, if not spectacularly, I unfortunately clearly overestimated the game's sales and player retention. Sure, we don't have official hard sales data for the game, but they are estimated to be in the 1.5 million range, which, while not a bomb, Marathon can't be considered a success either, especially for a Sony-owned first-party studio and multi-platform title where the lion's share of the player base is on Steam rather than PlayStation 5. Furthermore, Marathon launched a mere 2+ months ago, yet its active player base on Steam is merely around the 20,000 mark. And sure, that number doesn't account who is playing the console version of the game, but Steam is by far gamers' primary platform of choice when it comes to playing Marathon, and even then, it isn't doing very well. And look, before someone accuses me of being a Marathon hater, let me be clear that its lackluster financial performance has nothing to do with whether or not Marathon is a good game. In fact, I'm well aware that many folks really love the title, and this video isn't meant to dissuade people who enjoy the game, though I will occasionally crack jokes about how the art style appears as if it had a Mountain Dew filter. It's just that the sales and player retention are clearly underwhelming, and that's not really a good foreshadowing of Marathon's future shelf life, or at least until something drastic rights the ship, lest it sink like the Titanic and join Concorde in Davy Jones' locker. Because to be clear, Marathon isn't doing Destiny or Destiny 2 numbers for Bungie and Sony, and that's a problem because Marathon's estimated budget was around $250 million, and that's even before the fact that that high monetary number doesn't account for other expenditures as well as the constant upkeep and developer maintenance that a live service requires. And this fills me with concern, mostly because Marathon's underperformance is occurring in an era of severe market instability. Even beyond the implosion of the live service bubble and the rising costs of game development, many publishers, Sony included, have been laying off developers and closing studios left, right, diagonally, and fifth-dimensionally in an effort to cut costs. And while Bungie, given its storied legacy, even if the golden era of that said legacy is well in the rearview mirror, will probably have some leeway with Sony, that goodwill can only extend so far, especially considering that Destiny 2's once great player base has cratered. Hell, Destiny's fan base is waging an online war against Marathon's player base, which is a bad look. And then there's the fact that Bungie doesn't have any titles in active development as of right now. And Sony is well aware of Bungie's precarious position. In fact, Bungie's fourth quarter operating income dropped by a whopping 41.6%, and Sony, which acquired Bungie in the July of 2022 for $3.7 billion, recently posted an impairment loss of $765 million, which in layman's terms means that Bungie's current market value is far below the $3.7 billion Sony spent to acquire them. And while Bungie can still become as valuable as their original price tag suggested, it will be some time before this is corrected. Well, if it is corrected, because, there are no guarantees in this business, save for the perplexing continued existence of the Dynasty Warriors franchise. Admittedly, I can't 100% accurately diagnose why the numbers aren't lining up for Sony and Bungie when it comes to Marathon, mostly because I haven't played it, but I do have some theories. Firstly, despite many positive reviews from both critics and fans, Marathon's onboarding has received near universal criticism. According to the internet, Marathon's attempts to get the player accustomed to its extraction shooter and gameplay uniquities isn't user-friendly and is often described as brutal, which isn't good for player retention because intimidating new players with a punishingly difficult onboarding process discourages people from staying with the game, which isn't good for Marathon's longevity Because no shit. Secondly, the extraction shooter is very much a niche style of live service and rarely achieves mainstream success. Sure, 2025's Arc Raiders was a major hit in the extraction shooter space, but games like Arc Raiders are the exception to the rule, because the reason for the extraction shooter genre's often limited appeal can be summed up by IGN's Extraction Shooters Explained article, which states, one of the defining traits of the extraction shooter genre is that if you die, you lose the gear you're carrying forever, except for the little you've stuffed in a designated safe pocket. This gives rise to the dreaded gear fear. The better the loadout you take into a round, the more value you lose when you die. Do you dare risk that incredible shotgun you looted from a dead body last run, or do you keep it safe in your item stash? Cheap or even free loadouts may feel weak, but let you join a run without investing much. End quote. In other words, the penalty for failure is very high, even for someone like me who is accustomed to failure in real life. And thirdly and finally, there's the reason why I haven't even purchased a copy of Marathon. That reason being that I have been burned by so many failed live services before, and I just refuse to spend money on a game that might not even be playable a year or two from now, given that there are live services, even free-to-play ones, that only last months, if not weeks, as was the case with Concord. Because Concord, it's the shit that keeps on shitting. Time and time again, live services have proven themselves to be terrible investments, and given how, in a couple years' time, there is no guarantee that Marathon will be anything other than a glorified coaster, albeit a metaphorical glorified coaster, considering the game doesn't have a physical release. Boo. Meaning that I can't justify dropping $40 for it. Like, guys, my channel is just a little guy. I just don't have the excess cash to blow on games that have the same lifespan as a fucking fruit fly. Because while I do actually want to play Marathon, I don't really have the funds for it at the moment. And I don't think I'm the only one who is reluctant to spend limited cash on yet another live service whose shelf life is suspect. You know, because so many of us have been burned multiple times before. I mean, come on, there's a reason why the phrase live service is universally utilized as a pejorative these days. There's a reason why the live service bubble burst. As for Marathon, though, I really hope the game finds its audience, finds its success, especially with the announcement of a new PvE mode. But with that being said, at the rate it's going, Marathon is gonna quit running long before it ever reaches the finish line. So yeah, thank you for watching my little video on Marathon and how live services bring great shame to the human spirit. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment telling me what you think of the game or this story. Also, definitely consider supporting my channel with recurring payments on Patreon, which will allow your name to be seen on the credits here. If recurring contributions aren't your jam right now, you can support my channel through a one-time donation via Ko-fi, which will earn you a temporary credit for videos released in the following month. Any financial assistance is always appreciated. Thanks again for the support. See you next time.